What's up, guys? Welcome to Cage Side Connor. Connor. This is gonna be my UFC 318 post show slash matchmaking for the winners of the main card of UFC 318. Pretty good card. Not the best pay per view of the year, not the worst pay per view of the year. Definitely a good send off for Dustin Poirier. I think the UFC made a great call putting this card in Louisiana for Dustin Poirier's retirement fight. I don't think it would have felt exactly the same if this card was in Vegas, or wherever the fuck they wanted to put it. So yeah, it was a great call putting it in Louisiana, in New Orleans, and what a good send off he had. I think the main event definitely delivered. Main card in general, too many decisions. In fact, they were all decisions on the main card. Prelims were fucking bangers, so those definitely delivered. But yeah, main card could have been a little bit better. Maybe they could have rearranged a couple of the prelims fights and put them on the main card, particularly that Brendan Allen versus Martin Vettori fight, which ended up getting fight of the night, which I kind of disagree with, but whatever. That definitely should have been on the main card. A couple other ones on the prelims probably should have been on the main card, but I understand the way they sorted that card out at the end of the day, because they're probably thinking that Paulo Costa versus Roman Kapilov was going to be a bit of a better fight. But nonetheless, it was a good card in all. Like I said, not the best, not the worst pay-per-view of the year, but a proper send-off for Dustin Poirier. So let's get into my whole thoughts on the entire card as a whole here. Of course, in your main event, Max Holloway defeated Dustin Poirier via unanimous decision to win the baddest motherfucker belt. Once again, he retained the title of the BMF, although Elliot Poirier should really be the BMF, but that's neither here nor there. What a good fight it was. I think this is exactly how Dustin Poirier would have wanted to go out, on just what is probably a fight of the year contender at the very least, with one of the top athletes in the UFC, who is Max Holloway still. And yeah, it ended up being a great fight to cap off their trilogy here, and a great send-off for Dustin Poirier. I'm glad he didn't get finished, because that would have been kind of brutal for his retirement fight. And Max looked good, man. Max looked very good. Man, that power is just carrying up to lightweight with Max, huh? It's I mean, honestly, it's more power than he ever even had at featherweight here, which is very interesting. He's kind of getting that old man power as we're getting into the latter half of Max Holloway's UFC career here. But he looked very good. He looked very sharp. He looked on point. Other than that dicey moment at the end of round two, Max Holloway, I gave Max almost every round. I think you could argue Dustin the second and the fourth round. I probably did get Dustin the fourth, but that was really the only round, and even that was razor thin on terms of how close the round actually was. So yeah, I'm super excited to see where Max Holloway goes from here at lightweight, and then of course Dustin Poirier is retired now. So I'm thinking for Max, what do we do here next? I'm thinking Charles Oliveira. Why not? I mean, Dustin Poirier currently ranked 6th in the UFC lightweight division. Obviously, he will be removed come later this week from the rankings. And Charles Oliveira, I believe, is ranked number 3 right now in the UFC rankings. So it's a step toward the right direction for Max, and a rematch that I think we all kind of want to see. I mean, this would obviously be a banger fight. The first time they fought, we were actually robbed of a fight just in general. Charles Oliveira had some sort of neck injury early in the first round, from what I remember of that fight. And yeah, so we never actually really got a fight between Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. So yes, this would be a rematch, but it would also kind of be the first time we've ever seen them fight, and this would be a great fight. And you could easily put the BMF belt on the line. I think UFC is going to want to keep that going. I think they like shoving the BMF belt into a pay-per-view slot when they don't have any title fights available, any regular title fights available. And so yeah, I think that fight makes a lot of sense here. I don't think you can justify giving Max Holloway a title shot right away. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst choice in the world, but I think fans would just be uninterested in that as well, given how Ilya Topuria just beat Max Holloway less than a year ago. Obviously, different weight class, but still. And I don't know. I still think UFC is going to lean towards Ilya versus Paddy Pimblett for the UFC lightweight title. So Max is going to need something to do in the meantime, and I think he could set this up for early next year, very late this year. And yeah, it's a great fight to make. For Dustin Poirier, obviously, he's retired. But do we all actually believe that? I'm suggesting Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 4 in the BKFC. Who doesn't want to see this? I'm obviously just kidding, but I don't know. I could see this happening in like 2030, whatever the fuck. Why not? It's, I think we all know Conor McGregor is ultimately going to end up fighting in the BKFC at some point, given his promotional things he does over there. And I believe he owns part of the company now. And it seems like he really wants to fight in the BKFC at some point. And I could see this happening. I don't know. I don't know if I quite believe Dustin when he says he's done. I think he might get that competitive itch a couple years from now. And I don't think he's going to come back to the UFC at this point. I don't think the UFC would necessarily want him back at that point either. It's because he's going to be even older by then. I mean, he's 35 now, so you figured 37, 38 is when he might get that itch to start coming back again. You know, UFC would probably take him, but why not do something else? Do something fun. Do some BKFC, some bare knuckle shit. We want to see Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier just cut each other up. I kind of do. In your co-main, then, Paulo Costa defeated Roman Kapilov via unanimous decision. This fight, not that great. It was okay. At least Costa looked like the Costa of old, at the very least. Still not as much output as I would have liked from him. Didn't look as sharp as I thought he could have. Roman Kapilov really was just way too hesitant with his hands. Threw some good kicks here now and then, but it was way too hesitant and didn't really want to engage with Paulo Costa. And Paulo Costa was kind of clipping him when he was coming in too, so understandable. And Paulo Costa looked good. You know, good for Paulo Costa picking up a win here. I was not very high on Paulo Costa coming into this one. His last win before this was Luke Rockhold in 2022, and I just thought, aging Luke Rockhold is the last person he beat. I'm not even sure if Paulo's that guy, but he proved me around here. He can keep his spot in the rankings, and we'll continue on with Paulo Costa's career inside the UFC. The UFC certainly likes him, giving him a co-main event spot here. Like I was saying earlier, I do not think they should have gotten the co-main event spot. Especially after seeing Brendan Allen versus Martin Vettori, which was a banger of a fight. That would have made way more sense. Not only are they higher ranked in the middleweight division than both Roman Kapilov and Paulo Costa, but Brendan Allen being from Louisiana, that would have made way more sense putting that in the co-main. But I think UFC was betting on Brendan Allen versus Martin Vettori being more boring or a less exciting fight than Paulo Costa versus Roman Kapilov was. So understandable before the card, but they really fucked that one up. So I'm going to suggest for Paulo Costa versus Israel Adesanya too. I think why not make this fight? I think it's a perfect time to make this fight. I know some people want to see Paulo Costa fight like a Brendan Allen, like I was just saying, or who we were just talking about, or someone else, maybe Anthony Hernandez, someone like that. But I say we make this fight now. Israel Adesanya coming off a 3-fight losing streak right now. Paulo Costa just picked up one win, moving his way up in the rankings a little bit. I think if we're ever going to do this fight, you do it now because it makes the most sense right now. And it's a fun fight. 2 big names. You could easily make this headline a fight night or put it on a co-main event spot for 5 rounds on a pay-per-view. And it would sell. It would definitely sell. People love Paulo Costa. And Izzy's obviously one of the biggest names in the sport. So why not? I like that one quite a bit. Next up, then, Daniel Rodriguez defeated Kevin Holland via unanimous decision. This surprised me. It surprised me quite a bit. Daniel Rodriguez really able to win these rounds with his power. You know, I think his punching power really ended up surprising Kevin Holland. And I kind of wonder if Holland's chin might be deteriorating a little bit here with how active he is. That would kind of make a lot of sense. I know he's only 32 years old now, but that chin might be gone, man. When you fight 6 times a fucking year, all those training camps, all those punches you're taking, yeah, it's gonna add up. It's gonna catch up to you quick. Nonetheless, I thought Daniel Rodriguez looked very good. Definitely the biggest win of his career thus far. Really on point with the striking, really on point with his counter strikes, and this arguably was fight of the night. I know Brendan Allen versus Martin Vettori won. Personally, I think Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway should have won, but this was probably actually a better fight. I just think Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway had more stakes. But whatever, it doesn't matter. For whatever reason, UFC wanted to give it to Brendan Allen and Martin Vettori. And this, but nonetheless, Daniel Rodriguez, Kevin Holland put on a fantastic fight. For Daniel Rodriguez next, I'm going to recommend Jake Matthews. I think Daniel Rodriguez will be ranked around the 14-15 spot now in the UFC rankings. Jake Matthews looking to get into the rankings. I don't think Daniel Rodriguez has quite earned a spot in, like, I don't know, a high level name like a Buckley or something like that quite yet. And I'd like to see him fight one more guy outside of the rankings. Let's see if he's like legit now. If Daniel Rodriguez has gotten so good where he can compete with the guys in the top 10. And Jake Matthews, of course, been around the UFC for forever now on a good 3-fight win streak. I think it's a good fight to set up. And maybe they could put it on that Perth card, which is at the end of September. I don't know if Daniel Rodriguez wants to turn around that quickly, especially after just having a war with Kevin Holland. But nonetheless, hopefully I'll make that fight for later this year because it'd be a banger. Next fight then, Patricio Pitbull defeated Dan Ige via unanimous decision. This was the most boring fight in the main card for sure. I definitely could have shoved this one in on the prelims somewhere and got one of them bangers up from the prelims on the main card. But nonetheless, doesn't matter too much. I get the name value of Dan Ige and Patricio Pitbull. You're going to want to put those guys on the main card, but this fight didn't deliver too much in my opinion. There was a moment in like the second round where Pitbull dropped Dan Ige, and that was probably the most exciting thing that happened throughout the fight. Yeah, I thought this one would have ended up being better, but nonetheless, Pitbull picks up a win here in the UFC, his first UFC win. He looked decent. I definitely wouldn't go too high in the rankings with him. I definitely don't trust him to put on like spectacular performances. I don't think he got any fanfare through this fight with Dan Ige. So for Patricio Pitbull next, I'm going to recommend Yusuf Zalal. I think both these guys are kind of rising in the ranks right now a little bit. Pitbull should be ranked around 13, 14. Yusuf Zalal is ranked 12 right now in the UFC rankings. And I think, you know, Patricio Pitbull will probably be aiming for someone with more of a name than Yusuf Zalal, but I think this one makes sense right now, just given who's matched up currently. I know you have guys like Arnold Allen and Lerone Murphy out there too that Pitbull might be trying to eye up and try to fight one of them. I think you do a Yusuf Zalal right now, especially if Pitbull wants to remain active and fight another time this year. I think both these guys, currently two guys in the rankings that don't have a fight scheduled, and this be a good fight, it'd be a banger. Your last fight on the main card then, Michael Johnson defeated Daniel Zellhuber via unanimous decision. This was definitely the feel-good moment of the night. Michael Johnson looked spectacular against Daniel Zellhuber. Had a nasty drop on him sometime in the second round. And the resurgence of Michael Johnson is definitely something that's exciting and something to watch for throughout the rest of his career here. I don't think we're quite at a point where we can give Michael Johnson someone ranked right now, but I think we are at a point where we can give him a big name and maybe a co-main event spot on a fight night or another good highlight spot on a pay-per-view again. That would make a lot of sense to me. So for Michael Johnson, I'm going to recommend Jim Miller. Jim Miller currently coming off a loss to Chase Hooper. But, you know, I don't think that holds him back too much. It's still Jim fucking Miller, and we all love Jim Miller. And these two guys have never fought, been around the UFC for forever, especially Jim Miller. And I think this fight would make a lot of sense to set up right now and just throw it on a pay-per-view. You know, it's a good fight. It's a good time. I think everyone would be hyped for this one. And then if Michael Johnson can get past Jim Miller, then we can start looking at the rankings and see if this resurgence is real. But for right now, I just think it's a fun fight. And two guys that have not fought before, but definitely should. These are the rest of your prelims then. Of course, like I said, that Brendan Allen Marvin Vettori fight was absolutely fantastic. Shout out to Ryan Spann getting that choke, Bruno Ferreira getting that choke, Jimmy Crute with the armbar. Like I said, the prelims were fucking bangers. They were way better in the main card. So definitely if you were watching the prelims, you were rewarded. And I thought these really raised the card in general. So that brings us to our card ranking. Like I said, I don't think it's the best pay-per-view of the year. I don't think it's the worst. I think this being Dustin Poirier's retirement card, his retirement fight, really made the card feel a lot more special than it actually was. And then, like I said, these prelims were absolutely spectacular. So, a bit disappointing with the main card overall, but I think the prelims really brought it up a little bit. So I'm going to give this card an 8.1 on my scale here. A few points less than UFC 317. Maybe I'm being a little generous here because I do like Dustin Poirier so much. And I did appreciate that the UFC put on an entire show for his retirement fight for him. So maybe I am being a little generous. It should probably be more in the 7s, but I'm going to give it an 8.1 here. It's a solid card, not as good as UFC 317, and then a little bit better than last week's fight night with Derek Lewis. Yeah, 8.1. I think that's a solid little ranking here. Guys, that's going to do it for the video then. Please remember to subscribe to my channel on Cage High Counter. You just hit that like button too. Do whatever you got to do. Leave in the comments what your favorite fight at UFC 318 was. Let me know. And then we'll be doing a preview show for next week's Banger Abu Dhabi card with Robert Whittaker and Reiner Die Ritter. So please subscribe so you can watch that one as well. And we'll see you in the next one.